I don't know where I was. Anyways. Oh, I don't follow asteroids or meteors. They just fly through the sky. I should probably pay attention to that though, huh? Anyways. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am ℎ𝕣𝕠𝕕 and I am the Eclectic Herbalist. In today's video, I will just be doing a continuation of my Witch Talk 101 series, or my Witchcraft 101 series. Forgot what I called it. Anyways, Witchcraft 101 Basics. What we will be talking about today is witch type. If you caught my last video, you may have seen that I just kind of sprinkled in a few and gave just basic border details. Today I will be going over a few more. I did not count them, so I'm not quite sure how much there are. But I do know I am not covering even half of the actual list. So if you are interested in any of the types I name, I do recommend, of course, as always, do further research. But again, the ones I list are not the only ones out there, so always do your research. That is what being a witch is kind of about. Anyways, I have it all listed here. While I'm waiting for that to load, I will talk about the first one that I am most familiar with, because it is the witch type I most consider myself, and that would be an eclectic witch. And it is a witch I mentioned in my last video, so just to reiterate, an eclectic witch is a witch that studies and practices the traditions and tools from multiple crafts. They do not usually have a base practice. We are usually solitary. We're not usually in covens. For me personally, I do better on my own, but that does not necessarily mean I do not have a group of friends or a community I reach out to. So an eclectic witch and a solitary witch usually go hand in hand. An eclectic witch is usually a solitary witch. They do not usually practice in a coven. I will get into a solitary witch if you watched my last video, or if you're just kind of already know, solitary witch practices alone. So for me, I do not practice in a coven, but I do have friends that I do reach out to if I have questions. Next up on our list is the Green Witch, and Green Witch is a witch that uses and studies herbs and botanicals within her craft. Whether that be in her spell work or even her cooking, she uses it, or he, let me correct myself, they generally use it to heal. From what I've read, they use it to heal, but they use their herbs and flowers and roots and things like that in everyday life and in their magical life. From a book that I'm currently reading, it does mention that they generally are out in the foresty or greenish areas. Also, green witches tend to have a bit of a green thumb. That is another thing I do not have, as I've mentioned. I did have a garden last year. I'm hoping to bring it back this year. In my location, I should have really considered, when it says direct sunlight, should have considered how hot it gets here and the fact that I have absolutely no shade in my backyard, or didn't at the time. I don't know what they're doing. Next up on the witch that I did previously mention in my last video is a bone witch. I don't have any more information than I did in my last video. Now, I don't think I mentioned it, but if I didn't mention it, the blog that I go to get, or that I went to find most of my information, because I really can't find anything anywhere else. If any of you have a blog or are a bone witch or have just resources, please comment them down below, because I'd love to find more up-to-date, because that was a few years ago, but I would like to find more up-to-date blogs or just things to read. The blog post that I found some information on is Flying the Hedge. She is a hedge witch, but she does practice bone craft, so she has a whole series on bone crafting and tossing bones and how to feed your bones and all sorts of things like that. So if you are interested, I do highly recommend that blog, so shout out to her. And then while we are on the topic of it, we will discuss a hedge witch. Now, from my understanding, a hedge witch is a witch that practices with the spiritual realm. They kind of easily cross between our realm and that of the spiritual side. That's why they are called hedge witches. They kind of straddle the hedge. Yes, that is my basic knowledge of it. I thought I would just throw that in there as a type because some people don't know. They just hear it and don't know. But yes, a hedge witch kind of has something to do with the spiritual realm. And if I am wrong, please do correct me. That's just what I've researched. Everything kind of lines up to that. And then we have cosmic witches. Cosmic witches are usually involved in astrology or astronomy. They have a lot to do with the stars and planets. They generally follow all of the moon phases, the star alignments, and the planetary alignments, and they use that in their craft and workings. I think they also look into meteors and, I don't know, study meteor placement. I don't know. I heard someone say that. I don't know if it's true, but I thought I'd throw it in there. If it is, I know nothing about asteroids or meteors. Those just... Look here, fly. I don't know where I was. Anyways. Oh, I don't follow asteroids or meteors. They just fly through the sky. I should probably pay attention to that though. Next witch on our list is a divination witch. And what a divination witch is, as it sounds, of course, a witch that usually practices on the traditions and tools and studies of divination. So they may have many different tools to practice divination, whether that be a tarot deck, oracle deck, a pendulum, a obsidian mirror or a black mirror, a crystal ball. They may do tea readings, they may throw bones. They may do all of that just because that's many forms of divination, or they may just stick with a few of them. From my experiences with it, they usually have a few different forms of divination on hand. I'm really interested in it, so that's one of the things I think will be, if I was to tier myself, that would be one of the tiers that I focus most on. But on to the next one. So the next handful of witch types are more so locational based than actual tradition and tools. So that would be things like the sea witch, which can also branch off into a river, lake, or pond witch, I believe, or what was it? A swamp witch, I have heard of. So sea witch, desert witch, forest witch, and I think it's locational based, so I'm sure there are a lot more, but those are the ones I know off the top of my head. If I was to go locational based, for me, I would be a desert witch, but my soul does not belong here. I want to be in the forest. I want to be a forest witch. So for me, this is like drying. This is soul sucking. I don't like it, but yes. Sea witches generally use things they find in the sea, and they are usually very close to the sea, so they'll use seashells, sand, sea glass, or rocks or crystals that they find. And then I would assume a desert witch. I would be a horrible desert witch. I would assume desert witches use maybe things they find in the desert. So cacti. I have never seen desert rose just out in the wild. I do know the crystal shop I have around or close by has a bunch of them, but I've never seen them just out in the wild, like a wild Pokemon. And I do hike out in the mountains in the desert, but that's another thing. It's very hard to scavenge or forage for herbs because a lot of the wild grown herbs are grown near a road or a public building, not out in the desert. And then I'm just a little iffy about the things out in the desert because you don't know what goes on out there. Where I live, there is a whole back desert area that way, and you actually, it's not owned by anybody. You could just go out and live out there. So I don't know what goes on out there. I've seen things, I've found things. I found a $50 purse out there. But I digress. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. We're gonna move on back to the traditional based witches, and that next one is gonna be a kitchen witch. Now, for me personally, in my opinion, kitchen witches and green witches kind of go hand in hand. A kitchen witch generally focuses on the hearth and home and the wellness of the house and family home as a whole, whereas a green witch is more so like a garden, I guess. How I perceive it, that's how I would tell them apart. But they do both use herbs and botanicals in their craft, and they put a lot of their craft into their cooking and cleaning and just household in general. So yes, a kitchen witch and a green witch I would place under like a house witch, if that makes sense. But most all witches kind of use witchery and magic somewhere in and throughout their home. And then the last one I have on my list, which is another witch type that I am really interested in and would like to be in one of my little tiers, is a death witch. And a death witch is a witch that practices with death. So they usually use divination to speak with or converse with the afterlife. If you are a death witch, please do comment below exactly what it is you guys do. So that is my understanding of the few witch types that I have come across, looked into, and have just a general knowledge base of. Again, this is not even half of or even a quarter of the list from my understanding. So please always do your research, or if you do practice one of the types that I named, and you think maybe I got something wrong or did not give enough information, please let me know. I do like to learn as well. I am still learning. I think that's kind of a consistent thing, learning new things every day. That is it for the witch types in today's video. If I do come across more information on any of these witch types, or if I do come across new witch types that I'd like to share, I will definitely be making a video on it. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I am real awkward. I'm sorry. I will probably be awkward all the time. Still getting the hang of this, but hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more of my awkward, weird self, please hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.
Perceber sobre reis e talvez seja melhor nem dizer. Eu vim lá da zona oeste, ela é menina da zona sul.